Hello. Today, we're going to explore a gripping story of mystery and crime. An endless chase that spanned decades between the Indian government and a notorious criminal in southern India, where dense jungles stretched for thousands of square kilometers, hiding a king without a crown who made the authorities helpless. The mere mention of his name struck fear into people. He was known as the Jungle Assassin. From a humble cowherd boy, he rose to become a seasoned hunter, and later, the leader of a notorious criminal gang operating in the wilderness. His life was intertwined with crime, spanning 36 years, during which he committed countless heinous acts, even openly declaring war against the police, kidnapping government officials, and extorting massive sums from the state. The Indian government spared no expense in its efforts to catch him, mobilizing more than 1,500 police officers to hunt him down in the dense jungles over the course of 30 years. This massive operation cost the Indian government a staggering 78.4 billion rupees, which is roughly equivalent to more than 20 trillion Vietnamese dong at the current exchange rate. The media called it the largest, longest, and most expensive manhunt in Indian history. But what exactly was this crazy manhunt like? Let's rewind time to 1979 to uncover the criminal story of Vapon, the most wanted criminal at the time. The story begins in Gopatham, a small village in the southern Karnataka state of India. Surrounded by rugged mountains and dense forests, Gopatham was close to a wildlife sanctuary, making it home to countless species of animals. Life here was incredibly difficult. The villagers could only rely on the jungle for survival. Today, Gopatham has become a tourist destination, where visitors can take nature walks, ride bicycles through the forest, and even feed some wild animals. This once unknown tiny village was first brought to global attention because of the story we are about to dive into. Our story also features another key figure, Pandya, a kind and responsible forest ranger. He was born on May 12, 1954, in Andhra Pradesh, southern India. Pandya's childhood was spent mostly with his grandmother in his hometown. These formative years spent close to nature fostered his deep love for the forest and his desire to protect it. In 1976, Pandya graduated with honors from Andhra University. 3 years later, he passed the civil service exam and officially became a forest ranger, assigned to the Karnataka Forestry Department. At first, Pandya's job was simply to protect the forest's resources and wildlife. However, during that time, the forests in southern India contained many valuable sandalwood trees, as well as tigers, elephants, and many other rare species that attracted the attention of illegal poachers. The problem of deforestation and poaching became rampant, so the role of forest rangers expanded to include countering illegal poaching, patrolling, and maintaining security. Pandya witnessed firsthand the extreme hardships of the villagers. They not only lacked food, but also faced severe water shortages. Moved by their plight, Pandya spearheaded the construction of a water channel system, set up mobile clinics, and used his own savings to build over 40 modest homes for the homeless. His actions and generous spirit earned him deep respect from the local people. However, the challenges for Pandya did not stop there. At that time, many lawless individuals saw capturing elephants for their ivory as a way to profit from illegal activities. Witnessing these majestic elephants being mercilessly slaughtered, Pandya was heartbroken. To stop these poachers, he mobilized the villagers to create an extensive intelligence network, gathering information and compiling a detailed list of known poachers. Then he coordinated with the police to plan a precise operation to catch these criminals. In the end, he successfully arrested 120 poachers. This achievement struck fear in the hearts of other criminals, preventing them from continuing their activities. However, soon after, Pandya encountered his greatest adversary, who would become the central figure of our story today: Vapon. Vapon was born on May 18, 1952, into a poor family in the village of Gopinatham, Karnataka. The small piece of land passed down from his ancestors seemed cursed, with nothing growing properly. The family often faced hunger. As a child, Vapon had to herd cattle in exchange for food. As he grew up, he followed his father into the hunting trade and gradually revealed a remarkable talent for it. He could quickly determine directions in the dense forest, locate the hiding places of his prey, and had exceptionally sharp vision, allowing him to spot traces of birds from far away. Vapon's uncle, Sanva Gudar, was a notorious poacher and a well-established figure in the hunting community. One day, while hunting, Sanva recognized Vapon's potential and took him under his wing, teaching him the art of hunting. In 1962, at just 10 years old, Vapon, under his uncle's guidance, shot his first elephant. From that moment, it seemed like a Pandora's box of darkness had opened for Vapon. By the time he was 13, Vapon had started learning to shoot with a rifle. What was most striking was how naturally gifted he was with firearms. His shooting skills progressed rapidly, and within just a year, he had become an excellent marksman. At 17, he killed a man in his village over a dispute regarding a hunting target. Without hesitation, he used a knife to kill the man and fled, successfully evading the police investigation. That marked the beginning of 36 years of murder. In 1970, Vapon joined a poaching gang and soon became involved in the illegal ivory trade. His hunting range expanded to cover forests between the states of Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and Kerala. This forest region was almost entirely beyond the control of the authorities. The police forces from the three states didn't collaborate, so criminals only had to flee to another state for the pursuit to stop. This lack of cooperation allowed criminals to operate freely, turning the area into their stronghold, which the police eventually abandoned. The forest, home to thousands of elephants and numerous sandalwood trees, became decimated. Due to the illegal hunting and deforestation, the populations of elephants and sandalwood drastically declined. Vapon made a fortune by selling ivory and sandalwood. To avoid detection, he hid most of his earnings deep within the forest, only sharing a small portion with his family and the villagers. The villagers, grateful for the financial support, would warn him whenever the police were nearby. This network of informants made Vapon even bolder, and his confidence grew. On June 27, 1983, during a poaching mission, Vapon killed a forest ranger who tried to stop him. The incident quickly caught the attention of local law enforcement. Pandya, who had control over the intelligence network, became more determined to capture this cold-blooded criminal. He worked with the police to develop a meticulous plan for a large-scale operation. But Vapon was not an easy target. Growing up in the forest, he knew the terrain like the back of his hand. Every time the police got close, he would slip away and hide, with villagers sheltering him. Catching him felt like searching for a needle in a haystack. After 3 long years, the police managed to outsmart Vapon and capture him. But just when everyone thought it was over, Vapon mysteriously vanished from his heavily guarded prison cell. Later investigations revealed that he had bribed a police officer to plant an inside informant so he never feared being caught. Pandya was furious and disheartened. He had worked so hard to capture the criminal, only for him to escape so easily. This failure haunted him deeply. Determined, Pandya vowed to bring Vapon to justice, no matter how long it took. After his escape, Vapon became even more ruthless. On May 26, 1986, he brutally killed a forest ranger named Chidambaram in Karnataka. In 1987, he kidnapped and killed a government official, Chidambaram, and on May 9, 1989, he murdered 3 more forest rangers. By April 9, 1990, Vapon killed 4 police officers, and his actions became more violent and defiant. Not only did he battle the police, but he also eliminated rival criminal gangs, killing 5 key members and taking control of the entire poaching syndicate. His notoriety grew, and the number of his followers swelled to hundreds. Vapon used his clever tactics to buy the villagers' loyalty by giving them small incentives. Many people, rather than fearing him, began to view him as a hero, stealing from the rich and sharing with the poor, daring to challenge the powerful. In 1990, at the age of 38, Vapon married a fan of his, Matul, and they had 2 daughters. Despite having a family, his criminal activities continued. By this time, Vapon's criminal empire had grown significantly. The Indian government, alarmed by his rising power, could no longer turn a blind eye. The states of Karnataka and Tamil Nadu finally were commander of this force. This time, he devised a new plan. Rather than confronting Vapon directly, the strategy was to dismantle his criminal network from the inside. The plan to win over the hearts and minds of the local people was put into action. In Gopinatham, Vapon's hometown, Pandya initiated a reforestation program where trees were criminal who voluntarily surrendered would be shown leniency and given the opportunity to work for a legitimate livelihood. This approach proved to be highly effective. The first criminal to surrender faced minimal punishment, which encouraged many others to lay down their weapons. The gang that had once numbered in the hundreds shrank to just 40 members, and eventually only a handful of loyal followers remained. Even Vapon's younger brother turned against him, further weakening the gang's power. Pandya went so far as to hire lawyers for those who had surrendered, helping them reduce their sentences and navigate legal procedures. The special task force worked tirelessly, scouring the forests. Eventually, they discovered a massive stash of ivory and cash. These heavy losses infuriated Vapon, and he vowed revenge. He targeted several villagers with close ties to the police, beheading them and hanging their bodies as a warning. He also destroyed a police vehicle in a bold declaration of war against the government. In 1991, Vapon kidnapped the son of a granite quarry owner and demanded a ransom of 10 million rupees, approximately 2.6 billion Vietnamese dong. Eventually, the police negotiated the amount down to 1.5 million rupees, around 400 million Vietnamese dong, and the boy was successfully returned. This incident made Vapon realize that his acts of extortion were becoming too predictable. Despite the challenges he posed to the police, his behavior revealed that he was cornered. More and more people began to realize that the dawn of justice was near. In July 1991, Pandya's tenure with the Special Task Force was coming to an end. In most security forces, this would mean the end of active duty. However, Pandya could not give up. He stayed on, determined to witness Vapon's capture and bring him to justice. This decision would ultimately cost him dearly. On November 9, 1991, Pandya received a message from Vapon. "Tomorrow, if you meet me alone without any weapons, I will surrender." Although it was obviously a trap, Pandya decided to go. Before he left, he texted his colleagues saying, "I hope I will succeed. I believe God will be with us." The next morning, as he was crossing a small stream near the village of Gopinatham, Pandya was shot and killed. Vapon appeared, decapitated Pandya, and took his head as a trophy before fleeing. The 37-year-old forest ranger's life was tragically cut short. His death left many people mourning. Some criticized Pandya for trusting the word of a criminal like Vapon, but those who truly understood him knew that Pandya wasn't foolish. He was simply too compassionate. He wanted to save more people, even if it meant sacrificing his own life. He was a true hero. To honor his courageous actions, the government posthumously awarded Pandya a medal and declared November 10th as the Day of Remembrance for Green Rangers. A memorial was built near Gopinatham in his honor, and even today, many people visit it to pay their respects to him. After Pandya's death, Vapon became even bolder. He started actively attacking police stations, setting traps to ambush officers, and even targeting civilians. Anyone suspected of collaborating with the police was swiftly eliminated. In 1993, the Indian government could no longer bear the situation and Vapon. On April 9, 1993, in retaliation for the police's crackdown on his operations, Vapon orchestrated a bombing in Pala. He used 50 kilograms of explosives to blow up a bus carrying police officers, forest rangers, and villagers. Out of the 41 people on board, 22 lost their lives. This attack marked the most devastating blow the police had suffered in the ongoing battle against Vapon, and it was also the deadliest bombing in the Karnataka state during the 20th century. The attack sent shockwaves across the nation, prompting the Indian government to raise the reward for Vapon's capture to 150 million rupees, around 40 billion Vietnamese dong, and increase the scale of the manhunt. However, Vapon's violence didn't stop there. On January 24, 1993, he ambushed a special forces unit, killing 6 officers. Later that year, in July, he committed a horrifying act. He murdered his newborn daughter simply because she wasn't the son he had been hoping for. This act of cruelty went beyond the limits of human decency. He also killed a subordinate just for threatening his position. By 1994, exhausted by the constant killing and evading the police, Vapon concocted a devious plan to negotiate for his freedom. In 1994, after careful planning, Vapon kidnapped 5 famous actors, including Raikuma, a legendary Bollywood star, and his wife Pavama, along with 2 of their bodyguards. The actors were held hostage, and Vapon sent a message to the government, offering a list of political demands, including the release of political prisoners. He claimed he was willing to surrender if the government granted him a pardon. However, the police, knowing the extent of his crimes, in November 1995, Vapon kidnapped 3 more forest rangers, holding 6 hostages in total. He once again demanded a pardon, claiming that he would surrender if he were granted a mere 2-year prison sentence. This demand was also rejected by the authorities, and negotiations broke down. Many wondered how Vapon had the audacity to make such bold demands after everything he had done. The answer lay in the political power behind him, his connection with the Pali Makchi Party PMK, a regional political party in Tamil Nadu. The PMK represented the Vaniyar caste, one of the largest caste groups in the state. The PMK's political influence played a crucial role in Vapon's ability to survive for so long. By securing the support of the Vaniyar community, Vapon was able to challenge the government and gain a certain degree of protection. Some politicians, aiming to secure votes from this powerful community, even publicly endorsed Vapon, portraying him as a hero who fought against the oppressive elite. This made it possible for him to continue operating in the forests for many years, not just due to his marksmanship and strategies, but also because of the political shield he enjoyed. However, this protection began to fade in 2000, when Vapon caused a nationwide stir by kidnapping Dr. Rake, a legendary figure in Indian cinema. Dr. Rake was not just any ordinary person. He was one of the greatest actors in the history of Indian cinema, having won numerous awards. 39 of his films had been remade 34 times and dubbed into 63 languages, cementing his status as a cinematic icon. When news of the 71-year-old actor's kidnapping spread, it caused widespread panic across India. Fans rallied, stores closed, and even some people resorted to drastic actions due to the shock. To restore order, the governments of Karnataka and Tamil Nadu decided to cooperate and send Gopan, a journalist who had previously interviewed Vapon and was well acquainted with him, to negotiate with the criminal. Vapon presented a series of political demands, including the release of political prisoners. However, his real intention was always money. After 108 days of captivity, Rake was eventually released. Although the Indian government never disclosed the ransom paid, a police officer later revealed that the Karnataka government had paid a whopping 200 million rupees, around 52 billion Vietnamese dong, to secure the actor's freedom. This incident also exposed a different side of Vapon. During the negotiation process, journalists gained access to the notorious Forest King, revealing surprising details. Vapon, a slender man with a distinctive beard, appeared to be a quiet, humble figure, far from the image of a ruthless killer. At first glance, he might even seem approachable, but if you thought that, you would be gravely mistaken. He was a master in the forest, an exceptional marksman capable of predicting the presence of strangers by observing the flight of birds. His survival skills in the jungle were unparalleled, with some officials even calling him the Leopard King because of his ability to mimic animal calls. Vapon justified his poaching activities by claiming that government officials were allowed to hunt in the forest and take the meat home to eat, so why couldn't he? He revealed that he had bribed forest rangers and police officers for years, and in return, they would turn a blind eye to his actions. The majority of his wealth was obtained through bribes, and he openly admitted to having killed at least 120 people, declaring his desire to make a film about his life so that people would remember him. For nearly 2 years after this revelation, Vapon lay low, avoiding any killings. He lived a reclusive life until May 25, 2002, when he once again committed a crime, kidnapping Nagappa, a former agriculture minister from Karnataka. This time, the police refused to negotiate. Instead, they took the risk of rescuing the minister, but the operation failed. A few months later, Nagappa's body was found, riddled with bullets. The bullets used to kill him were strangely similar to those used by the special forces. It was unclear whether Vapon's men had used them, or if Nagappa had been accidentally shot in the crossfire during the rescue attempt. The situation had escalated to the point where the entire nation focused its attention on Vapon. The credibility of the government and law enforcement was seriously at risk. If Vapon wasn't captured soon, it could have disastrous consequences. As a result, the police forces from the states of Tamil Nadu and Karnataka finally decided to collaborate and launch a large-scale operation called Operation Cool. At 10:15 p.m. on October 18, 2004, darkness fell over the forest. Vapon, whose vision had been deteriorating due to his eye disease, was in need of urgent medical treatment. With the help of one of his men and 3 subordinates, he boarded an ambulance to head to the hospital. The driver of the vehicle, however, was an undercover police officer who had spent a long time earning Vapon's trust. As the ambulance drove deeper into the forest, Vapon unknowingly moved closer into the trap set by the authorities. The moment the vehicle stopped, the driver suddenly jumped out of the ambulance and instantly, shadows emerged from the darkness surrounding the vehicle. Vapon and his 3 subordinates were trapped inside and couldn't escape. The police shouted 3 times, urging them to surrender. However, the tense atmosphere was shattered by an unexpected gunshot. Vapon fired first, breaking the deadlock. A fierce shootout erupted. In the end, Vapon and his subordinates were killed, and his reign of terror that lasted over 50 years finally came to an end. The notorious criminal who had been terrorizing the forests for 36 years was finally taken down. Afterward, the police compiled the statistics from Vapon's criminal activities. Throughout his life, he had killed at least 184 people, including 97 forest rangers and police officers. The government of India had spent over 1 billion rupees just in the states of Tamil Nadu and Karnataka to hunt him down. The total cost of the manhunt amounted to more than 78.4 billion rupees, equivalent to over 20,000 billion Vietnamese dong, making it the largest, longest, and most expensive operation in Indian history. In the forests where Vapon operated, at least 2,000 elephants had been killed, 500 of which were poached by his gang. The poachers would transport the ivory out of the forest by walking, then use buses to sell the illegal ivory in markets, which amounted to an estimated value of 160 million rupees. After the ivory trade became difficult, Vapon switched to trading sandalwood, earning 1.43 billion rupees, around 370 billion Vietnamese dong, from the illegal trafficking of 65 tons of sandalwood. After his death, his wife Mathul Ladm and 25 of his relatives were prosecuted for concealing his crimes and accepting bribes. The police recovered 4 million rupees in cash, a large quantity of gold, and 3 cars from them. However, due to a lack of sufficient evidence, Vapon's wife and his relatives were acquitted. 13 others were sentenced to 1 year in prison and fined 150 rupees each, about 40,000 Vietnamese dong. After the trial, Mathul Ladm calmly said, "Now I am free to start a new life." Vapon's body was buried near the Cauvery River. Interestingly, his funeral attracted thousands of people who came to pay their respects. Supporters of Vapon claim that he was wrongly killed by the police and that he never had the chance to surrender. Some even spread rumors that certain politicians did not want him to go to trial, fearing he would expose darker secrets. The father of the late forest ranger Pandya, upon hearing the news of Vapon's death, was deeply moved. In Vapon's hometown of Gopinatham, the villagers lit fireworks in celebration, finally releasing the years of fear and resentment they had endured. For over 20 years they had lived under his shadow, afraid to enter the forests, unable to harvest crops, and paralyzed by his reign of terror. Now, the name that had haunted them for so long had finally become a thing of the past. The news of Vapan's death spread quickly across the country, and the Indian government referred to it as the death of a monster. Countless people took to the streets to celebrate the end of a reign of terror. However, not everyone saw Vapan as a ruthless criminal. On April 25, 2013, at a cultural festival for the youth, some of his supporters glorified him as an idol, trying to whitewash his crimes. This absurd action angered the families of his victims and law enforcement officials who strongly condemned it. The incident was heavily criticized by then Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Jayalalitha, who spoke out against it. Despite the controversy, Vapan's story has been adapted into films multiple times, and books about him have been published. If you are interested, you can find and read about his life. It is worth noting that after Vapan's death, many people rushed into the deep forests to search for the treasure he had allegedly buried. Despite many years passing, no one has found it yet, and the search continues. Some have even traveled from afar, but all have returned empty-handed. No one knows for sure whether the treasure really exists. The story of Vapan, the king of the green jungle, serves as both a lesson and a warning. It leaves us with much to reflect on regarding the nature of humanity and the dark sides of society. This concludes today's video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Goodbye.